Hello, hello.
Hello.
I'm here live with Mary Beth Thompson for our Business in Abundance interview today. We were just laughing because I've had all kinds of tech issues. The universe was like, no, Zoom's not going to work. This isn't going to work. But we're here now. So I'm so excited to have Mary Beth. I had the great honor. Gosh, it's been a while now since we've had our first conversation. And I'd love to just start out by having you share a little bit about who you are, first of all, anything you want to share about just who you are in the world. And then I'd love to dive into a little bit about really your gifts, because I think that's really the best way to put what you offer is that you have an incredible gift of clarity and vision and the ability to draw upon that along with some other incredible modalities to really help people. So let's just start there and dive right in.
Oh, thank you, Rachel. I'm really grateful to have this conversation with you, and I appreciate you inviting me on. So, my name is Mary Beth, and I currently live in the suburbs of Atlanta, Georgia. I have two young daughters, and I'm married, and I grew up most of my life in Virginia. My background is in marketing and communication, so I've spent the last couple of decades doing that mostly in healthcare arena, nonprofits and charities. I've always felt compelled to be of service and to be mission based. So that's always been kind of my platform. And I was secretly in the closet as a medium. Only my closest friends and family knew about it. And so I didn't share it publicly. And over the course of my personal development and really immersing myself in the personal development arena, I often would be told by people anecdotally, Mary Beth, you'd make a great life coach. And at the time, it didn't resonate with me, but life has a way of getting our attention when the time is right. So around the pandemic, when it began in 2020, I had the only way I can explain it was a shift and a nudge from the universe that it was time to look into it. So I started to do my own due diligence, my research. I started to look into different types of life coaching programs, and I was not surprisingly drawn to more of a spiritual life coaching road and journey. So I went ahead and got a couple of certifications under some people who I just admire and respect so much. And all the while, I also started to get a hunch that it might be time for me to come clean with these abilities. And I will say, although they feel like a gift, I call them abilities only because I want people to know that everyone has the ability. It's our
Mhm.
birthright, it's our divine, innate ability to be able to have that connection to our higher self, to our loved ones in spirit, to our angels, and so on and so forth. So I'm just very careful about saying gift because I don't want people to think that that insinuates that only select people have it, because that's just not true. Now, my antenna might be very high, but we all have antennas.
Mhm.
So around the time I was launching my business, which is called Soul Shines Coaching, I again got this nudge that it was time. It was time to share this ability. And it felt like, why would I keep this a secret if I could help people? If I could be a conduit to bring some clarity, some healing, some closure or connection. So I kind of had to get over my childhood shame of being brought up in this, religious community, which kind of frowned upon it. So, and as it turns out, it was very, very well received. And that gave me obviously a lot of validation that this was the right choice. And so now I've been doing this professionally for just about 2 years, and I've been beyond honored and grateful to have followed this path and to be able to help be a conduit for people.
Wow. Well, I love that you shared that this is an ability because I agree. Like I've met so many people who, when they start to kind of dive into and connect with that channel that can be opened and can be
Mhm.
drawn upon and really start to like look at that and be aware of it. Really, we all have this inside of us to connect at a higher level with, whether it's a guide, an angel channeling, or somebody from our past or who's passed away.
Mhm.
um Oh my goodness. So many places we could go here. I love also that you mentioned this sort of idea of coming out of the closet
Yeah.
to show up and really shine yourself
Hmm.
spiritually with this because what I'm noticing as I have more and more of these conversations is that there's almost like a collective calling to come out and share this and
Yes.
offer this because it's needed. It's needed on, an individual healing level, but it's also needed on a much more like planetary level. So I'm hearing a
Hmm.
lot more from people that, it's the time. I've been doing this for myself. I've been doing this with a close circle of friends, or I've
Hmm.
known that this is something that I really love and I want to share. And that almost like now is this time. And I just want to dive into that a little bit because you said it's been for like the past couple years and it's
Yeah.
almost like this the pandemic, and everything that we've been through over the past few
Hmm.
years is full throttle throwing people into wanting to be more aware and more connected at a deeper level and with their higher selves
Hmm.
because the external can be really chaotic, right? So
Hmm.
let's just go there just a little bit about I'd like to know what are some of the questions that people ask when they come to you? What are some of the, things that come through from you?
Hmm. Gosh, that's a really big question. So I have two, I would say, buckets of my clientele. So my first bucket would be the life coaching clients, and typically those are people who are feeling a little bit stuck. A lot of times, just I've noticed a pattern. It's in their work life. It feels like they're ready for a change. They're not really fulfilled or happy, and they're looking to be able to get more clarity about what would make their life feel more fulfilling. I have different I have different modules that I take people through in life coaching. So it encompasses basically business prosperity and abundance, relationships. So that would be relationships with yourself, with your peer group and your work group, and then your loved ones. And then also, I take people through kind of a soul and a spiritual module that helps them be able to connect with their own intuition and their higher self. So, my life coaching is very heavily based in a spiritual, metaphysical aspect.
Mhm.
But I do find that people are looking for some clarity about their purpose here in this lifetime, and I don't know, almost like giving themselves permission, you know what I mean, to be able to think outside of the box or kind of open themselves up. And then on the other side of my business, when I do mediumship sessions, and I call them intuitive life path sessions. I guess another word to call it would be called psychic. So someone maybe is looking for guidance or insight about their relationship, their children, their health, their career, their spirituality path. So that would be a session I would do for someone who's looking for guidance. Then the mediumship is when I'm connecting to someone who's a soul of a loved one who's crossed over, who's no longer in body form. So those are the two types of sessions I offer from that aspect of my business. And I would say, to answer your question about what's a common question that people have or what are people looking for, with the mediumship, I'd say it's a couple of things. One is they want to know, do you see me? Are you involved in my life? Let's say my client has a child and their loved one passed over before they got to meet their child.
Mm,
They're more involved in their life today from a spiritual standpoint in spirit than they were when they were here physically in the human life form. So the answer is a resounding yes. I mean, they
mm,
will give me the spirit will often give me images and memories and information of things that just happened a few days ago.
wow.
Right? So that's their way of validating, yeah, you better believe I'm here. I was just here at, the Easter brunch that you guys just had at grandma's house. I was there.
Wow.
Um, they also want to know sometimes just unanswered questions. Like, unfortunately, a lot of times if people have taken their own life, people are
Mhm.
looking for clarity about, could I
Mhm.
have done anything different to help you not make that decision? Or questions around the circumstances of their passing. They might want some insights about that to help just kind of give them some peace of mind. And then with the intuitive life path sessions, um, I feel like I was just reading a quote the other day, or I think it might have even been this morning, but it had to do with like the healer isn't healing, the healer is helping you heal yourself. And
Mm,
that's I resonated with that very much because I feel like I'm only what I'm perceiving and interpreting energetically and intuitively about my clients. I feel like at a visceral level, deep down, they probably already know it. But sometimes we just want outside validation or we want someone else to tell us something. And so I just often feel like maybe I'm just mirroring at a subconscious level what they already know. And it just makes us feel a little bit more secure and a little bit more confident to get that validation from someone like me who says, yes, you are some, your marriage or your partnership, it's feeling like you're just hitting yourself, like hitting yourself up against the wall. And maybe you're considering maybe departing or leaving from this relationship,
mm,
but you just would like some, kind of a bird's eye view on, am I
yeah.
crazy or is this really happening? And so now people have divine free will. So I'm not the kind of person who's going to be looking into like the magic 8 ball and telling you, your future because that's just not the way it works. It's more so giving people um so for example, I always do a prayer before my sessions where I say, asking spirit, give them information for their best and highest good. So it's
Mhm.
never going to be anything scary. It's only going to be helpful information. And usually people walk away saying, I felt safe, I felt supported, I feel like I have more clarity is a big common word that people will use often.
I love that. And I think that's what people are often looking for. And especially
Mhm.
this point you make about just sometimes affirming or validating something that's already, it's a decision maybe they're on the edge of making or something they already know kind of like deep in their soul, right?
Mhm.
But having that come through somebody who maybe doesn't really know these inner workings and details is really such a huge affirmation and validation of maybe, okay, yes, I do need to let this relationship go or this job go or make this decision in my life because this is going to move me in the direction of my purpose and of my journey and where I'm
Mhm.
supposed to be. So I love that. And I've experienced, a lot of different types of readings throughout my life. I call
Uh-huh.
myself a personal development junkie, but like when I would travel in the world, I would always go get, a reading, whether you call it a
Mm.
psychic reading or a card reading, all over the world, France, Spain, different places.
Oh.
And it's really interesting because that's a common thread. Even if like I didn't understand the language that they were speaking, I might be able to see the cards or get something from that to validate something I already know. And
Uh-huh.
this goes back to, and I think mediumship is a little bit different because sometimes we don't know that we don't know that maybe that person is with us or sees us or is still
Yes.
connected with us. And so I think that does give people,
Mhm.
hopefully more often than not, a very warm sense of like whether it's closure or peace or harmony
Yes.
about that person, or it's kind of a surprise. I had a reading where someone came through that I hadn't really thought about, but it all made perfect sense. So you might not
Uh-huh.
know that person is coming through or they're with you, and then it
Uh-huh.
was like, wow, this person is here with me, giving me strength, helping me get through something, at like almost that very deep, if it's family generational level or
Mhm.
or whatnot. So it's really fascinating, but I feel like the messages always that come through are to help us, whether it's to trust our intuition, our inner
Yep.
knowing, or
Yep.
just to see
Mhm.
clearly. So this is such a beautiful thing, and I know often people are a little bit afraid to go down that road. And
Mhm.
I'd love to just touch upon the fear a little bit because, you know, one, what do you think people are afraid of? And how can an experience like this, with you, who you just create such a safe space, like just your presence and your energy is so loving and calm and safe, but also feels very authentic,
Mhm.
very, very authentic. So when I am in your presence, I'm like, she's the real deal. This is not
Oh.
your like psychic down the road who
Yeah.
it's just like
Yeah.
it's very, very
Thank
different
you.
you. And I think probably because, you've of your life experience and
Mhm.
the way this has come to you, and then also just diving in and getting certifications and really
Mhm.
probably understanding some of the other aspects of life coaching and even the science,
Yeah.
you know but
Yeah.
yeah, what do you say to people when they're fearful or they have skepticism, and
Mhm.
how do you help them move through that, and what are the fears?
So the first thing, well, first of all, thank you. That was a tremendous compliment. I received that, and thank you so much. So the first thing that comes to mind as you were talking about fear is that we are all products of our experiences,
Mm,
right? And so what I have learned is that we don't know what we don't know, right? And some people who just have a one track mind who believe something probably because they were taught it by their parents or their caretakers. And we just tend to take on those beliefs and those perceptions and those, values. And usually, or oftentimes at a certain point in our lifetime, we might pause and go, well, wait a second, do I believe that, or was I just taught that?
mm,
And so again, going back to the church, there's a lot of organizations, religious organizations, that condemn this idea of being able to talk to souls and spirits, which is so highly ironic to me because, for example, in the Catholic faith, which is what I was raised in when I was younger, we're taught to talk to angels and to ask for their protection, the guardian angels. We're taught to pray to Mother Mary, who's the mother of Jesus, and ask for her protection and discernment. So there's very much this commonality about asking for help and communicating. But once I came out of the closet that I happen to have a two-way walkie-talkie that I can hear them talk back to me, then it gets very scary. So
mm,
as far as
mm,
the fear that people have, I think it's understandable considering that so many of us were raised in households, especially religious type of households, that this is bad. So
mm.
again, we're a product of what we were taught. And so, and I mean, quite frankly, it is a little weird. You know what I mean? Like, I totally get it. And I don't even know how to explain it. The very first time I heard from his spirit was a grandfather of mine who passed away when I was very young. I think I was like 7 or 8 years old. And he just started talk I don't know how else to explain it. In my mind's eye, he just started talking to me. First, I felt his presence next to me. I knew it was him. And then I started to receive telepathically information from him. And I wasn't scared. Um,
Mhm,
in retrospect, it seems so natural,
mhm,
how it all kind of just came out. And so, yeah, so I for people who don't do this kind of work and don't communicate with spirits directly, I can understand why this would be a very bizarre concept to understand. And I find too that when people don't understand something, it can be scary.
mhm. Very true. And I don't know if you've had many experiences with people who this is like their first time ever having,
All the time.
a reading or, having an experience, but I imagine that more times than not, they walk away like, wow, and feeling a lot more, feeling like this is a much more safe space to be in to start to
Mhm.
explore and have this communication and even maybe explore that channel within themselves, you
Mhm.
know, to be open to it. So I know that to be true. I mean, have you had that experience also that when after people have this experience, their eyes are really opened?
Yeah, yeah. So I should say this. I was never formally trained as a medium. I was never professionally educated. It was just a natural ability that I figured out I had, and for like 20 years I would share it on the DL with people who were in my immediate circle. So what I have come to realize in the last couple of years as I've started to, again, like I said, you don't know what you don't know. So reading a couple books about mediumship, and it was just validation. I'm just turning the page like, yep, yep, that's exactly how it works for me too. And there's a name for it. There's clairvoyance and clairaudience and all this stuff. And so just kind of getting the validation that this is how it works. And so I always ask people when I do my sessions, have you ever done anything like this before? Whether it's a psychic, a medium, intuitive, whatever they call themselves, because I want to know the basis of their foundation. And
Mhm,
I want them to know, especially if they've never done it before, that not all intuitives are the same. I think we're all, I describe it like we're speaking a different dialect, but we're all trying to achieve the same thing, which is to share
mhm,
information for your best and highest good. So I'm a clairvoyant and clairaudient primarily. So I see information in my mind's eye. I hear information in my mind. They're not my thoughts. And sometimes I feel things too. They might, if it's a mediumship session, I might feel a pain in my heart and they're signifying that they had a heart attack, things like that.
Mm.
So yeah, I do find, oh, another thing that I do that I kind of feel like I've made it a signature part of my sessions with mediumship is I'll ask for a certain sign or symbol at the end of the session so that the person can walk away looking out for that particular sign. And spirits have like dozens and dozens and dozens of signs at their disposal, from seeing a butterfly or a red cardinal or a rainbow or seeing coins left in your pathway, um, hearing a song on the radio that was special to you or to them. I mean, so they have an abundant amount of abilities to do that, but I just like them to give me one specific sign or symbol so that that person can walk away. And I find that time and time again, they end up choosing something, the spirit does, that actually means something. It's not just an arbitrary sign. Just recently, someone's dad in spirit showed me a dragonfly, and that would be his sign. And as it turns out, that had a significance to her. They used to go fishing, and dragonflies would land on her fishing pole, and she would always turn it over to show him, Dad, look at the dragonfly. And that I could give you dozens of examples, but so yeah, so I kind of try and give them a takeaway that is very specific to them.
Well, that's incredible. And I think, excuse me, I had a little frog in my throat. I think that that's one of the things that people really like can connect to. So I think it's amazing that you're able to offer that and see that and give that symbol. And I'm sure that the emotional response to that is so transformative for both you, receiving and seeing and sharing that, but also for them to be like, wow, that person's really with me, or,
Yeah. And you
so
said earlier, you made a comment about our intuition and people kind of doubt themselves. My goal and my takeaway in doing mediumship sessions in particular is to validate that the soul and the spirit of the person who you love is still with you today, period, end of story. So they
mm,
do that by giving evidence, validation, things that I could never possibly ever know. So kind of once we get that out of the way, like, yes, this is the spirit that I'm connected to, and here are, a couple of facts about their personality, their career, how they passed away, kind of getting that out of the way. Then my favorite part is focusing on memories and messages for them.
mm.
So yeah.
Do they come back to you and let you know when they've seen that symbol or that sign if it's not apparent right away?
Yeah. I mean, one of the very first sessions I did, it was a couple of sessions actually. One was gosh, was that another dragon? That was actually, I think that was the other second time I've ever had a dragonfly. And it was my clients, they were divorced, so it was her ex-husband, but they had a daughter together. And he showed me two dragonflies, and it was very specific that it was two. It wasn't just one, it would come together. And that day she noticed she forgot, people they call it psychic amnesia, where they're in the moment and they're kind of overwhelmed with the amount of information that's coming through. And a couple of days later, then it hits them. They're like, oh my gosh, yes, that makes total sense. So this happens all the time. And so anyways, this person sent me a picture where she had two dragonfly like sun catchers on her window, and she didn't realize it until she looked over this one day that one of them had slid next to the other one. And
Wow.
so where they had never been together before, and so the one dragonfly had like slid down the window, so the two dragonflies were together
I
like
just
this.
got goosebumps.
Yeah. And she's like, oh my God. And so the spirit had told me that was to signify him and his daughter being together.
Oh,
Um,
wow.
yeah, it happens. A couple weeks ago, I did a session for someone, and the woman showed me balloons, a bouquet of balloons, what would be her one of her signs. And the client told me that she just anecdotally, we were talking, and she said, yeah, she worked out at the YMCA. And now it's crazy. Oftentimes I will see the symbol within 24 hours, and it's like the spirit's
Mm.
validating to me,
Oh,
A,
wow.
that was correct.
That's
And then of
really
course,
interesting that you both will see
yes, yeah,
that
you got it
symbol.
right. The very next morning I walked into the YMCA, and they had these promotional cards that had balloons, bouquet of balloons. I'm like, you've got to be kidding me. It was at the YMCA, which is where she worked out, and this bouquet of balloons. And so, of course, I told the client that. About 2 weeks later, she said, Mary Beth, I completely forgot. The day I went to go pick up her ashes from the place that had it, she saw a balloon floating above her car, and she said to herself, I bet you that is her, it was her aunt. I bet you that was her sending her message. So again, you fast forward now a year later, she's validating that balloons are her sign. So yeah, it
Wow.
happens all the time.
And we probably get these messages and symbols all the time and
All the time.
don't even realize that
Mm-hmm.
that is wow.
Mm-hmm.
I want to dive in a little bit because I could hear these stories all day. I just love them. It's so powerful. I get goosebumps. But you also bring in some other really interesting techniques and modalities into your life coaching. And I love that you talked about the kind of the three buckets we've got, career, we've got relationships, our own journey. What are some of the other, I guess, tools, I should say, that you bring in if somebody were to come to you really more wanting that, that kind of life coaching and get some answers or some direction for their life?
Yeah, so like I mentioned earlier, a lot of times it seems to be not every time, but oftentimes there's someone who is struggling in their career and they're looking for some clarity. So I will take them through exercises. So I'm a certified color energy coach. And
Mm,
so essentially what that means is I help educate people on the energy of color, and then I give them I teach them and I show them exercises to work with these color energies, and then help them, like I was saying earlier, kind of get some clarity about their lives. So, for example, blue, we're both wearing blue today, is the color of truth and wisdom. So,
mm.
so if you were to, let's say you're having you're going to have a hard conversation with somebody and you're really, a little bit fearful about speaking up for yourself or telling your truth, you could wear the color blue. You could have a blue crystal in your pocket or in your hand. You could just, find clever ways, being outside outdoors on a beautiful day where there's no clouds and the sky's full of blue. So just kind of immersing yourself in that blue energy. So yeah, and then like pink, is the color of unconditional love. So if you're struggling with maybe you're being a little bit hard on yourself and you're beating yourself up, you could do the similar kind of things with the color pink. So anyways, I overlay kind of educating people about those qualities of the different color energies, and then teaching them how they can incorporate that into their life to get those moments of clarity. I'm working with
Like such a powerful tool. I love this.
it is. Yeah, it is. And there's shadow sides to every color too. So it's interesting. So basically I meet once a week with my clients, my life coaching clients. And so over the course of the week, they have some exercises and homework to do, so to speak. And they also do very short, I would call them meditations, using the color kind of, and visualizing the color around them. And it's so interesting to see how they receive and how they feel that color energy, because it tells you a lot. If it lights them up, if they feel excited, they're very much embodied in that, color
Mm.
energy. If they resist it and they struggle, then I know that we're working with the shadow side, and kind of I'm helping to teach them to be able to have, more balance in their lives in that area.
So the colors can actually be used to create more balance. They can be
Yep.
used as sort of an affirmation, a
Hmm.
tool, help you get through maybe areas of struggle or face things. So that is so interesting. And now I
Yeah.
know you have an upcoming workshop. Tell us a little bit about how people can find you for in the first place. So I know
Yeah.
you're soulshinecoaching.com. But what do you offer? And then I'd like to hear more about your upcoming workshop that people can join.
Yes. So I am on Instagram, and I'm at Soul Shines Coaching. It's a plural, so it's Soul Shines Coaching. I'm also
Signs.
on Facebook under the same handle. You mentioned my website, soulshinescoaching.com. So I have I try to really offer a ton of free content. So every single day I'm on my social media channels giving people life coaching nuggets. I'm giving them spirituality and metaphysical things to think about. Like, for example, the significance of the number seven.
Mm.
Seven is a really important number in spirituality. And so the other day I was explaining why that is, and I'm not a numerologist, but in 2023 right now, this is called the year of seven. And seven is a
Mm-hmm.
very spiritual number. So it all makes sense, So a lot of my clients this year are coming to me saying, Mary Beth, I feel like I'm going through a spiritual awakening. And I'm like,
I'm
yeah,
hearing that
of
a
course
lot.
you are, because it's a year seven. So if you go to my Instagram or Facebook pages, if you check in every day, you'll see. My hope is that I can help be a teacher for people to help kind of them learn some things about themselves and about spirituality and about life coaching hacks. And then also on my website, I have a lot of articles. So I'm a writer by trade, and I'm a featured writer very frequently in this one. It's called Mantra Magazine.
Ooh.
This will actually be on stands any day now. But
Ooh.
it's such a beautiful publication. They have lots of fun quotes in here that you could even rip out and frame or put on your
Put on your
wall.
wall. Yeah, I love
Yes.
that.
Yeah, and they do that on purpose because they want people to repurpose their stuff. And so
That's
this
Mantra Magazine.
Mantra Wellness Magazine, and they have an amazing Instagram page too that if you follow them. um but my article that's in there right now in this issue is called Use Your Love Language to Support Someone Who is Suffering.
Mm.
And so the article, and so I say all that because I put all of those articles on my website. So
Oh,
if you
wow.
don't have the hard copy of the magazine, they're sold in all your local grocery stores and retailers and Target and things like that. But if for some reason you couldn't get a hold of it, my website has all the digital copies of my
Amazing.
articles.
Sounds like such great content and value and things that you provide.
Yeah.
And I love just that, you're bringing some awareness and continuing this thread of, I of course love the spiritual world and uh, want to be in it all the time, every day. That's why I'm doing this, because like getting
Yeah.
to talk to people like you and people creating
Yeah.
incredible healing and transformation in the world, it just absolutely lights me up, and we need more of it. So I love that you're putting all of this out there. You're a mom, you're busy, but you're also taking
Yes.
the time to really like help share this with people so that they can get value and start to bring even just some of these ideas into their life, even if they just baby step a little bit into learning and exploring, because I
Hmm.
think there's so much curiosity, and it's becoming a lot more mainstream to dive into different aspects of spirituality. So I love that.
Yeah,
Um,
absolutely.
I know you have something coming up around chakras, and I'm
Yes.
excited about this because I was a massage therapist for 20-25 years,
Hmm.
and definitely loved learning about the chakra systems. And then when I moved to Bali for a while and was able to experience actually healing with Balinese, traditional Balinese healers, one of the things that in their culture is really focused on chakras. And there was
Hmm.
I experienced a technique where it was like chakra spinning, and they would go over different areas of my
Yeah.
body. And, even if it's just like this movement,
Hmm.
whatever they were doing, it was moving energy, and it was
Wow.
powerful, and it was healing stuff. And I would close my eyes and it was like, wow, I was seeing things. So,
Hmm.
the energetic healing is something I'm extremely, extremely attuned to and love. And I think chakras is one of those things we hear about. Maybe people don't
Yeah.
really know. They don't really know
Hmm.
what is a chakra. What does it
Yeah.
mean? Do I have a chakra?
Uh-huh.
So tell us
Yeah.
about your upcoming workshop.
So I thank you. Yeah, so I have a workshop coming up. It'll be the following Sunday, so it's April 23rd at 8 p.m. Eastern. It will be recorded, so if you can't listen live, if you register, you'll still receive over email the recording. And so I host these workshops online every other month. Like you said, this month's training is going to be about chakras. In the past, I've done one about how to increase your intuition. I've talked about how to manifest, how to connect with your angels and your guides. So I kind of just try to follow my audience's questions and kind of let that guide me in what I'm teaching that month. And so chakras was something that came up that people wanted to learn more about. So I'm kind of thinking the way that this is meant for are people who like you said, they've heard of it, they know vaguely what it means, but they want to understand it better. So I'm going to kind of give them a crash course on our seven main chakras. So for example, you may have heard your third eye or your brow chakra. That's what I use to try to open up my clairvoyance for me to see the images that I get from spirit.
Mm,
So, and it goes all the way down to the base of our spine to our root chakra. And so think of them like energy wheels, and they're almost our filtration system. So if
mm,
you've had, something as grand as going through trauma as a child, and that might be showing up in your chakras being blocked or kind of not being free flowing. Think about that filter that's been the filter needs to be changed in your house, right, to get the air flowing. That's kind of what the
mm,
symbolism is. And so I'm going to teach people not only about their seven main chakras and what their purpose is individually and how they correlate to our bodies and our emotional and our mental clarity. And then I'm going to give them tools that they themselves can do to help balance them and open them up so that they have, essentially a more fulfilled and peaceful life.
wow. I love it. I love it.
Yeah.
I hope some of you watching will sign up for Mary Beth's workshop. This sounds incredible, even if you know about chakras or you're just starting and you want to learn. This is a really powerful piece. And I don't know if we have people I think we probably do have a lot of people now in human design, but that's something
Mhm.
that, a whole nother conversation, but that comes up a lot
Yeah.
in human design. Like I know, I'm a 4/6 sacral generator, but a lot of people now are getting into human design and
Mhm.
starting to really look at some of those other areas in our body and how important it is to tap in and activate or filtrate these
Yes, yes.
these different centers, and how
Yeah.
that can really help us move through our day, our goals, our challenges,
Mhm.
or help us get to that next level to be really in our true essence and show up the way that we want to show up. And I think that it's all related. Our energy centers,
Yeah.
knowing about this and utilizing this can make a big difference.
Yeah, I mean, one common example I can think of is money wounds. A lot of us have money wounds. I think there's technically 15 different kinds of money wounds, from scarcity to overspending, things like that. And so, for example, our root chakra is the chakra that aligns our safety and feeling grounded and feeling protected. And so you'll often find someone who has money challenges or money issues, one way or the other, is probably having an issue, so to speak, with their root chakra. So that
Mhm.
would be just one of, dozens of examples to help people to kind of connect the dots of like where in my life am I struggling, am I having challenges, and then kind of work backwards to go, okay, where is that in my chakra system? Okay, now I can start to do XYZ to help open this up.
And are there signs, without going too deeply into this, are there signs that when people do start to kind of filtrate and work with those chakra systems, that they actually can feel or notice or experience to help them know that maybe some of those blocks are clearing?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I think you would feel maybe your conditioned negative limiting beliefs and thoughts would start to dissipate.
Mm,
Maybe, if you're struggling to sleep at night, like that could be one example, and you start to sleep better.
mhm.
Maybe you're struggling with anxious thoughts and your anxiety, you notice, is not quite as profound. So you would just start to basically experience your life would not have that same lens that you're looking through, because you've been able to kind of balance your chakras and clear your energy a little bit more.
Wow. I love this. Well,
Yeah.
thank you so much, Mary Beth. This is a topic I like a lot that I'm that I'm jumping into lately with
Yeah.
incredible women entrepreneurs and mind, body, spirit, wellness, transformative coaches. I feel like I could just go on and talk all day about this stuff. It's so fun. It's so fascinating, and there's just so much healing that this can provide. So I urge you, if you're watching, get a hold of Mary, find her on Instagram, Mary Beth. Check out some of her programs, her content. It's been really just such an honor and a pleasure to speak with you. I love the way you show up. I love how, like, just I feel like everything you say is the truth, and
Mm,
some of these things can be really, like we talked about, a little bit scary, or there can be skeptics out there. But when I have a
mhm,
conversation with you, even though I am already very open and a
mhm.
believer, it's like I trust it. So there's something about
Mm.
your presence that creates a lot of trust. And so I really urge you, if you're watching, to connect with Mary Beth and experience some of this. Any final words for anyone who's watching? Any tip for them to go out into the world today and maybe start to connect a little more deeply?
Well, thank you, Rachel, for having me again. I can echo how you feel. I also enjoy your presence. I enjoy your company, and I could talk to you for 2 more hours, quite honestly.
Thank you.
Um, let's see. A tip for people, I think, would be um, to going back to intuition and trusting yourself. I think that is a very common experience that people go through is trusting.
Mm,
And we have this ability to talk ourselves out of things that so a tip I would just explain to people that I think anyone could walk away with is separating fear from intuition. So fear shows up as maybe your heart's racing, maybe you have sweaty palms, maybe you have racing thoughts, and it's repeating and it keeps
mm,
circling back. Intuition, which comes from your higher self, maybe it's your guides, your angels, comes through in a flash. It usually
mm,
comes through when you're not even thinking about that topic. It comes out of nowhere. You might be in a meditative like state, like walking the dog or on the treadmill, or you're washing dishes or folding laundry or in the shower. And so that's the difference I want people, because people oftentimes get confused. Like, well, is that just my anxiety, my fear, or is that something more? And that is like a clear, crystal clear way to know the difference is it comes fast and it's not going to be like ping ponging around in your head. It comes
mm.
through so quickly, and
Very
it comes
clear.
through neutral. There's
Mm,
no drama about it. Anxiety, your monkey mind anxiety makes
mm.
you feel like a lunatic. You know what I mean?
That
So
makes
so I
so much sense. That
yeah,
makes so
yeah.
much sense.
So I just thought that might be a nice kind of takeaway for your audience, is to know kind of, okay, moving forward, this is how I'm going to know the difference between this is coming from my higher self, my angels, my loved ones in spirit, is a very different experience than when you're just dealing with good old fashioned anxiety or fear.
And one more thing, do you recommend when we have those moments and we know it feels like that intuition versus that
Mhm.
fear, is there something we can do with it? Whether it's process it in a certain way, should we go write it down, like sit with it? Do you have
Follow
any
it.
follow it? I
Follow
love
it. I mean,
follow it.
trust and follow it. So if someone out of nowhere comes into your mind, your friend Allison, you haven't talked to her in a long time, and you're like, huh, isn't that interesting? Or maybe you have a moment of, oh, maybe I should pick up the phone and call her. Call her.
Mm,
Don't just let that go to the wayside. There might be something going on with her,
there's
and
a
your intuition
reason.
is saying she needs to talk to you. She needs to hear from you. There's something going on. So my answer to that is follow it and trust it, period.
I love that. I love that's a perfect stopping place for us. Follow, listen, trust, follow your intuition. Start to be aware of the difference between fear and intuition. And wow, this has been so wonderful. Mary Beth, thank you so much. And thank you,
Oh,
everyone who's tuning in live or for the replay. All right.
thank you, everyone. Thank you,
Next
Rachel.
time.